Hi everyone, Corey here from the Knitting All the Blankets podcast. And guess what I'm not going to talk about? No, I'm joking. There will be a little bit about my brother's blanket. Today is April 8th. I gave it to him last Sunday, Easter Sunday. And it went over so well. The projects page on Ravelry is all finished with complete pictures. If you follow my Crafts by Corey Facebook page, that is where I posted a lot of the pictures, and I just noticed that this is all wonky. Oh, that's gonna bug me. So I have to fix it now. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, the blanket was the hit of my parents' Easter brunch party, and we also combined my dad and my brother's birthday things that day. And yeah, I essentially just handed him this really big bag. He knew exactly what it was because I didn't put any tissue paper in the top of it. And our mom was like, open it. So Eric and it's like, okay, Eric, you are going to reach down in the bag and you're going to do essentially this to either side, and I am going to pull this bag off. And then we coordinated, well, I instructed him when it came to unfolding it because I knew how it was folded. I was on one end, my mom was on the other, and my brother was in the middle kind of holding it up. That picture isn't on Ravelry yet, but it should be on the Facebook page. And yeah, it was a hit. The Ravelry project page does have all the in progress pictures, and then the final layout picture that I did on our guest bed because it is a queen size blanket. I was wrong. It actually didn't. It covered the queen size bed very nicely. It just looked a lot bigger to me than. How I kept saying I thought it was going to be big enough to fit a king. No, it fit a queen very nicely. I'm like, okay. If I'd added one more stripe, it probably would have been king size, but no more stripes. Oh, the irony. This is the Knitting All the Blankets podcast, and other than my 10-stitch blanket, I have no desire to make another blanket right now. That was a huge project. Eric's blanket, total time, 11 months and 2 days, because I wrote down when I started it and when I ended it. I'm actually going to get my little knitting notebook out where I've made all my notes. Yeah. Oh, that's coming up. So I made a note of when I started it, and then I drew an arrow of when I finished it. So yeah, 11 months and 2 days. Whew. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so the last time I podcasted was 2 weeks ago, March 25th. I did the podcast that morning. I had shown the final 3 stripes all completed. Got that podcast uploaded. We went to have lunch at my in-laws' house, and then when we came back, I essentially put on an audio podcast, and I sat on the floor and crocheted the whole thing together. I got it done that night. It took 6 hours to crochet it together, which I was kind of shocked, to be perfectly honest. But my husband was like, no, that seems about right. I mean, these stripes are like 90 inches long, and I'm crocheting 2 of them together. I did take pictures of how I crocheted them together. I did end up holding the yarns double, so the red stripe and the green stripe. There are pictures of this on the project page. So when I crocheted the green stripe and the red stripe together, I held the green yarn and red yarn double, and I just used a larger crochet hook, those notes, all those notes, and on the project page, I made sure to take very detailed notes, all that fun stuff. So it is there. And yeah, my brother is very happy to have it. I actually need to call him and ask him if he's put it on his bed yet, because the other blanket he has is a quilt our great grandmother made, and I have the Afghan she crocheted, and he has the quilt that she made, which is fine. It's perfect. I'm just glad somebody is using it. So yeah, I did tell him that, you know, because of where I crocheted it together, I did that on the wrong side, but if he didn't like the way the nubs felt, you know, the ridge felt, I told him just flip it over. I mean, what's the point of a blanket is that it should be comfortable. And I also told him that, you know, it's Red Heart acrylic. It will soften with time and with washing and drying. But if right now, if you don't really want it against your skin, just put a top sheet on your bed and put the blanket over that and just sleep like that. So he has lots of options. Okay, so that is it. If I get a report back from my brother, I will say I know he appreciates it and he's very happy to have it. And once he's had it for a while, I will ask him how it has been to sleep with. So once I get that, I'll share that with you. But I'm tired of talking about this blanket. Y'all are tired of hearing about this blanket. So let's talk about something new. So in the meantime, I was also knitting dishcloths again. And to bulk up my craft show inventory, I was very close to finishing the Bernat Lime Burst, which to me is Tinkerbell Green. And I did. I finished it March 30th. I finished the yarn. Here's my stack of 10 dishcloths, ends not woven and ends not woven in as usual. My standard is the grandma's favorite washcloth pattern. I do like the eyelets. I know some people don't. You know, to each their own. And I love it. So 10 dishcloths. 1 scrubby. I may keep the scrubby just because, I mean, I love the color. And I do that sometimes. I did that with the squishy, the Bernat squishy from back in September. Pictures of that is in my projects page. So once I get all these ends woven in, I will do the pictures, upload them to my project page. And that's also, it's nice that I do that because it's also a nice running photo album for me of all the stuff I've knitted over the years. And sometimes it's hard to remember exactly what a colorway name was. I can tell you that there are 3 Bernat colors from last year that they're all just similar because they all have like, it's a white base with some orange specks, some red specks, some blue specks, maybe some green and some yellow, but it's like all kind of sort of some sort of combination. And they're similar enough that I mix them up, but different enough that if you lay them side by side, you can tell they're different. And I can't remember which one's which was a problem the other day when I decided to do craft show inventory just to see what I had. So I had my big tub out and I had everything stacked up and was counting. I have like 100 and no, I had the number written down somewhere and it's in another notebook and I'm not going to go get it, but it was the total dishcloths I had in stock. And I messaged Anne and Tiffy. I'm like, guess how many dishcloths I have in stock right now? And they guessed and no one was right. I think it was like 95. Maybe it was more than 95. Again, I don't remember. But I've been trying to think of a different way to do inventory because the way I have been doing inventory, I try to keep track by color, which is fine when I can remember the color. But if I can't remember the color, this is not helping me. So I'm trying to figure out a different way of doing it right now. So yeah, okay, that was a kind of a tangent. So 10 wonderful Tinkerbell green Burnett Lime Burst dishcloths and 1 scrubby. So that does mean I am on to the Burnett Purple Perk, which is ironic. That is named purple, not ironic, but I've had purple yarn from Burnett before, and that one was called Grape Squirt. This one's called Purple Perk. They look the same to me. So if I have any of the Grape Squirt left in my inventory, which because I was just counting, I'll probably just combine the stacks like I did with Red Heart Port and Burnett Port and Burnett Licorice, because to me they look the exact same. I wasn't going to have 2 separate red piles when they look the same. So I might do that with this solid purple as well. So I'm on the second cone of Purple Perk. I just finished the 6th dishcloth on that this morning. And based on, I get about 10 to 12 dishcloths out of one of those big Burnett skeins. You know, I got 10 of the green, but I very well may get 12 purple, which is fine. As long as I get at least 10, I'm happy. And it doesn't have to do with my gauge or my tension or anything. Sometimes it's how tightly the skein is wound to make yardage or to make weight when they actually skein it up at the factory. So, and I can also tell you that while all this yarn is supposed to be like worsted weight, the twists feel thinner. So sometimes I do get more dishcloths out of those just because the yarn is thinner. Yeah. I don't know. So I'm about halfway through. I should get 5 or 6 more dishcloths out of this. And that is just your standard cake cone that I've talked about this before. If you can see that, that's skateboard tape. Skateboard grip tape that just holds the yarn on here, so I can just very nicely pull it off as I knit. Okay, I started another project. It's not a blanket, haha. I talked about this the last couple podcasts. It's a shawl for my friend Tiffany. I was going to have it done by May. Things have changed, and now I don't need to have it done till next January. Which I'm kind of relieved about, because I did not want to bust out this really big shawl in a month. It's truth be told. So, I'm making her a shawl out of her grandmother's yarn, and I've started the first color. It's just going to be a simple triangle shawl. The project bag I'm using is a lovely Husky toolbox, because my bags have to be able to take abuse and everything, and I can fit a lot in this thing. I've gone over all of my big Husky project bags in a previous video. I think the title of the video actually has project bag in it. Okay, so the first yarn that I'm using is this old Red Heart, and it is Country Rose. And this is yarn that belonged to Tiffany's grandmother. I'm holding it very delicately because I'm center pulling it. And the pattern I'm using, it really is just the increase pattern for the grandma's favorite washcloth pattern. That it's, knit 2, yarn over, knit to the end of the row, knit 2, yarn over, knit to the end of the row. That's it. I wanted something simple, something slightly decorative. And yes, I'm using worsted weight yarn because, and this is what it looks like so far. There's the edge. And this is going to be the first color. I'm up to 60 stitches. Yeah. I'm keeping track of my row counter on one of these the twisty row counter ones. And I just made a simple necklace out of it with some of the Red Heart Cherry acrylic from my brother's blanket. So I can just put this over my head like this and twist it when I'm on the next row. And I'm trying to to increase 10 stitches a week. Because it's getting bigger, it's taking me longer. And this is how I have my log set up, so I know where I am and how many stitches I have. So I have 60 stitches. I started with, I cast on 2, knit the first row, knit 1, yarn over, knit 1, then knit 2, yarn over, knit to the end of the row. I didn't want I didn't want my edge to look like this. I wanted it to be more of a point. So I started with 2 instead of 4 stitches. And it's going. The needles I am using, and they're bouncing around, are the Takumi Clover US 8 5mm circulars, and this is the 36-inch cable. I've been looking up to see what the longest cable offered for the bamboo circulars. I prefer bamboo needles. It's just, they're my preference. And the longest I have found is 48. I've also found out that you can get these little things like with the bamboo interchangeables, that you can get these little connectors and you can connect 2 cables together. Because I don't know how big this thing's gonna get. I've got 3 more colors to add on, and I want it to be big. And you know, I started to say that I made this out of worsted weight yarn for a very specific reason. This yarn belonged to her grandmother. Her grandmother is no longer with us. I really want it to feel like a hug when she wraps it around her. That's the reason why. So yeah, that's why I chose smaller needles instead of 10s. You know, 10s are usually my go-to needle for everything. I just want it to feel like a hug. So I'm trying to add 10 stitches a week. It's getting, I did have to stop, if you noticed in the log, not the last entry, but the second to last entry. I only did 7 stitches, added 7 instead of 10. That's just because my wrists got tired, and I'm trying to be very mindful of how my wrists feel, because the amount of work I put into my brother's blanket trying to get it done, I pushed myself when I should have taken it easy. So that's another reason why I'm glad I don't have to get this done in a month, because my hands would fall off. So yeah, this is going to be a slow going project. I'm just going to work on it as I can. I'm leaning forward so I can stuff everything back into my bag. But yeah, I know once it gets really, really big, from what Anne said, because her boneyard shawl ended up being like 400 stitches across or something, or at least it looked that big, she would say I could only knit 2 rows and I was done because my hands just hurt. So I know I'm gonna have to take it slow. All right, the last thing I worked on, and I'm very happy that I got back to this, is I started working on my Mini Skein 10-stitch blanket again. I'm trying to take it very carefully out of its basket. I am still on Anne of Twin Mommy Creations Rainbow Rambouillet minis. I'll put her shop link in the description below. I don't know if she has any in stock right now, but she has a whole bunch of other Mini Skein sets that I will one day own, and they will be in this blanket. So, the last time I took the stitch markers out, so the last time I held this up, I was here. I've put that many rows on. I've done a corner and done this much of a stripe of this side. And that is a total of 110 rows. And it doesn't look like much. It really doesn't. And I actually am holding it the right way. This is the way, if I was going to lay it out, this is the way it gets laid out. And the way I tell that is the starting square. This is where I started. I know this is the beginning edge. So, and I also know that because if I flip it over to the wrong side, that's where my tail is. So, I am going to start doing Scrappy Sundays the same way Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady podcast does. So I've got bobbin lace later on today, so I can finish up my bobbin lace bookmark and workbook that I will hopefully self-publish at some point. And then when I come home, I'm going to put hopefully another 100 rows onto this. And I'll just keep going, and yeah, 100 rows isn't, it seems like a lot, and then when you just see how little when it comes to DK weight and size 3 double point needles go with it, yeah, this blanket's gonna take forever. And I say I want more Mini Skeins for it, and I have a basket full. But I've got a list. I have a list, a shopping list that I'm going to give my husband for my birthday. So, that's what I've been working on past week. Yeah, so I got a lot done. I'm happy to be working on other projects. And we'll see in a couple weeks how much more progress I've made. I have not picked up the Boneyard shawl again. I need to. So, we'll see. If I get tired of knitting on Tiffy's shawl, maybe I'll go back to that one. Okay? I'll see everybody later. Thanks for spending some time with me.